the foot bridge scrunch. Now that's a great name for an exercise. Here we're strengthening the foot muscles, in particular the muscles that run down on the inside of the foot. This is where you're going to notice the most of the sensation, and indeed you may well feel that those muscles get slightly fatigued, and they are responsible for creating a bridge in the foot, which is seen as good foot health. So what we're going to do is encourage those muscles to work. Now, I've mentioned this before in other videos, I actually have quite fallen arches, and essentially what that means is that this foot bridge is maybe slightly flatter than what we'd see in a textbook, for example. However, it doesn't necessarily cause me any issues, but issues like that can lead to conditions such as plantar fasciitis, etc. So this is a real good rehab exercise, as well as a good functional one just to do to keep good foot health in general. So I'm going to crack on with this. We're going to focus on this. I've got another camera set up on my foot, a close up on my foot. No one really needs to see that, but yes, we do in terms of doing this exercise, because then you're going to see what it is I'm trying to create here. And essentially what it is, and I'm going to come around here and turn myself to the side, is we are trying to get the ball of the foot as close as we can to the heel. Now essentially it's going to be really hard to physically move this here, but what we can do is by driving in that ball of the toe, the big toe here I'm specifically talking about, into the foot and keeping that, maintaining that heel in contact with the floor, you're going to feel the muscles under this foot here really tighten up. And in some cases, if it's particularly weak, they can cramp really quickly. If it does cramp, obviously stop, and then you want to do is give that muscle a little bit of a rub along there just to ease off, and indeed lift up the top toe like so, the big toe, sorry, up towards the ceiling there, and what that's going to do is help ease off that cramp almost instantly. So therefore that is showing how maybe that part of the foot is not working optimally or as much as it possibly should. One reason why I encourage walking around in bare feet is just so that we keep that natural ability to work our foot muscles freely out of shoes as much as possible without getting at one with nature here. I'm just talking on a real functional kind of level, and also just being able to get that opportunity to do so, and then make sure that we're able to work that foot as much as possible. So I'm going to show both feet here, but essentially what we will do is quite simple in terms of executing, but harder. It's one of them things that maybe you even have to think about. So what we're going to do is pop the foot down, and as you can see my arch is quite low here. This would be seen as quite low, but here what I'm going to look to do is drive that toe into the floor, that big toe into the floor, and push that toe back and create an arch in that foot. Now it's not very spectacular on this foot, I have to say, however I can really feel that working here. So I'm going to stand up, I'm coming down just to reiterate the point, but ideally you want to be standing up here, and I want to make sure that I'm keeping the weight on that foot. I'm not trying to take the weight off, and now I'm going to relax it off, and you can see how much it falls off there, hopefully with the other camera. So as I come through here, like so, squeezing up, pushing up, and then relax. As I come to the other foot, and you'll probably find that both feet are not the same, no shock there. As I come up, I'm going to drive that foot, that big toe into the floor, and again, you may well feel that you go into a cramp if that is particularly weak, or it certainly fatigues really quickly, and then we're going to drive that in. Now I'm not actually turning my foot out. What I'm not doing is artificially pushing that foot to one side. It's by driving that big toe down and back into the floor. It's creating that arch up, and you will see your ankle move as a result. And that is, as long as you're feeling that muscle working, or muscles working underneath the bottom of the foot, then you know you're doing this right. If you're just creating movement and nothing is working at all, then all you're doing essentially is just moving the joint. So we're using the muscles to create the movement in the joint, that's creating that arch. And if I let go again, you can see that drop down. So it's a real practical thing. You can do it. In fact, I find myself doing it throughout the day. Maybe that's just one of the things I enjoy doing. I don't know. But I work on that day in, day out. Now, one thing I will say is that is actually really quite hard to do when you're wearing shoes. It's not impossible to do when you're wearing shoes, but it's harder to do when you're wearing shoes because how confined those shoes make the foot in terms of how much it can actually move. And you can do it both at the same time, so you would stand still and then drive those big toes into the floor. You don't have to do it one foot at a time. And now I'm working both at the same time. Now essentially if you stand at a bus stop or you stand there having a chat with someone, you can do this whilst doing it. So again, you can work it during the time, and the more you work it, the more you're going to work those kind of muscles, and that's going to help with your overall foot health, which will help with your ankle health, and it has a knock-on effect throughout the body. So great simple exercise there. I'm going to say simple, not necessarily easy, but simple exercise there for working the muscles in the foot.